Hey, business principal students. Today we'll be talking about what I hope is one of your favorite chapters as well, Chapter 5, Starting a Business. So we're kind of skipping over Chapter 4. We'll go back to that after Chapter 5 because I really want to go through this chapter in time for you to reflect on it before your pitch. So, starting a business. So we talked about previously that entrepreneurs are more willing than most to take risks. But why are they willing to take risks? We'll talk about some attributes of successful entrepreneurs and their teams, discuss what an entrepreneur is, and talk about home and web-based businesses. We'll also talk about the importance of small businesses to the American economy and summarize some of the causes of small business failure. We'll summarize ways to learn about small businesses and how they operate and briefly analyze what it takes to start and run a small business. This chapter is by no means all-encompassing. It's to give you a little bit of a head start and present you with some considerations for next steps. So, we'll outline the advantages and disadvantages small businesses have in entering global markets. Now, your chapter starts off with a look at Kodiak cakes. So, brothers Joel and John Clark took their mother's whole grain, high protein pancake mix and sold it door to door. When John earned his MBA, he decided to start working on the business full time. So, they appeared on Shark Tank. They did not receive the funding. However, their sales skyrocketed after the consumers saw the show. So that's a free marketing there. Now their sales exceed more than 17 million boxes each year. This is a great example of a company going viral and getting big overnight. So here's a little pop quiz, not graded. The founder of this company opened a candy company in Chicago, but it failed. He tried again in New York and it failed again, but he didn't give up. And today his company is one of the largest candy companies in the world. Name that company. If you guessed Hershey, you're correct. All right, going into entrepreneurship. So we know that an entrepreneur is someone who accepts the risks of starting and running a business. Entrepreneurs are important because they obviously employ a lot of people. I believe that statistic right now is 53% of those employed in the United States are employed by small businesses. So many of the large companies that we have in the US today were started originally by entrepreneurs. Companies like DuPont, Avon, Kodak, Ford, and Amazon. So there are a couple reasons why you guys should definitely start a business right away if you have one in mind or have been considering starting your own business. So something that starts small doesn't always stay small. If you're growing your business now, it can definitely escalate just through slow and steady hard work over a long period of time. Right now, most of you don't have a mortgage or kids to take care of, so you don't have a lot of taxing obligations on your time outside of your regular work schedule. You can survive on very little and you're able to work long hours. I was telling my in-person class that, I would work 12-hour shifts at Sonic in high school and in college because I just had so much energy. I could work and work and work. So that's one of your assets right now. There is no disruption in your career path because it hasn't officially started. Once you take your first professional position, and if you're working the traditional 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, which is some of the what some of the new career professionals are experiencing, you have somewhat of a pressure to continue on that path, whether you've joined a great company or you want to move up the ladder or you want to not have gaps in your employment. So it's really important that if, before you've established that professional career path, that you get started on your dream. If you're more adaptable and have a higher risk tolerance at a younger age, This is because, like I said, you don't have the mortgage, the kids, the house, the car payment, concerns about 401k, parents aging. There are just a million things that come with, being more advanced in your career and in your life. And I know not everything applies to everyone, but now can definitely be the best time. In contrast, you're never too old to be an entrepreneur either. My dad had a successful career in the Air Force and retired as a senior master sergeant. Then he opened his own clock shop. He was already in his 50s when he decided to do this and became a second career entrepreneur. You could also open more than one business. You can become a serial entrepreneur and have start several companies, or spin up companies and then sell them and then spin up the next one. Older entrepreneurs have the benefit of having greater life experience, and they may have more financial resources available to them. One example they highlight for entrepreneurs is Jungle Jim. Jungle Jim has crazy outfits. He roller skates through his store. He has over 1,500 kinds of hot sauces. And he has, a lot of cute decor in his building. This kind of reminds me, if anyone has been to Wimberley, there is a hot sauce store that is absolutely phenomenal. And you can try any hot sauce in the store. You can also try their honey spreads and peanut butters and salsas and everything else that they have. It's an absolute experience to go through that store. So the question is, why do you think customers might remain loyal to Jungle Gyms as opposed to just getting their hot sauce from Walmart or the local grocery store, HEB? I mean, definitely you would consider this to be an experience. They may build a relationship with Jungle Jim or with his team, and then just associate, a good feeling about being in that store, having all these options available to them, being able to try new things every time they come in. So this is one way that a small business can have a benefit or have a competitive advantage over big box stores like Walmart. So why do people take the entrepreneurial challenge? Well, some reasons. They want to have their piece of the American dream. They definitely want to grow something, create something, and share in the success. We talked about Adam Smith's invisible hand and some of the reasons that business owners are driven to help the community and to help their customers, and in turn receiving profits. But over and above the profit portion, entrepreneurs tend to they find a problem and they want to turn that into an opportunity. They see a gap in what is available in the current market, or they see a solution to a problem that they would like to be the one to solve. Of course, we talked about profit. There is freedom in having your own company and not reporting to the man or having set hours, or there is a multitude of constraints that can come along with being a business employee versus a business owner. The fourth reason is entrepreneurs like a challenge. They're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to, go through difficult jumps and hoops in starting their company. They're more passionate about the company than they are concerned about the potential challenges. So that's great. We know why someone would want to be an entrepreneur, but what type of person does it take to be an entrepreneur? So, some of the key attributes that your textbook highlights and that I concur with, you need to be self-directed. Entrepreneurs don't need to be told to get up at 6 a.m. every morning and pursue their passions or strive to grow their companies. I have and I'll attach it to this chapter, but I have a photo of Jeff Bezos when he first started Amazon. He's sitting at his desk in his home office, and he just put the word Amazon on a piece of paper and taped it to the wall, and that was the first Amazon, as a company. Very inspiring to see him going from absolutely nothing to what he has today. Entrepreneurs are self-nurturing. There are going to be a million people that are going to tell you that your business is not going to work out for one reason or another. Either they have their own negativity about pursuing challenges, or they just don't have belief. So you have to be able to tell yourself constantly and repeatedly that you are going to be successful and that you are going to work hard and make sure that you go against those risks to be able to grow a company. So that's great. And you can self-nurture and you can self-direct, but entrepreneurs have to be action-oriented. You have to take charge of problems. You have to build solutions where and build something basically out of nothing. So being action-oriented is absolutely essential. Entrepreneurs have to be highly energetic. They have to be more passionate and more excited about their company, their business, than anyone else around them. And they have to keep that passion with every customer, with every contact that they associate with. So being highly energetic is a key trait. And then last one is tolerant of uncertainty. This goes hand in hand with low aversion to risk. So being able to seize the day without understanding what's going to happen, being able to open a store without being certain that it is going to stay open a year from then. Tolerance of uncertainty also goes hand in hand with confidence. You have to believe that you can do it and that you are prepared for the challenges ahead. So, you guys, so it was said earlier, don't wait. Start your business now. If you want to start your business while you're attending school, you may or may not have an idea of what you'd like to start, but start by finding a problem or a need or a niche in your community that hasn't been solved yet. Definitely hook up with a mentor. We'll talk about different types of mentors and companies available that will help you later in the chapter. Zero in on the specifics. Start with just one idea or just one problem. You may have a dozen that you'd want to solve, say for motorcycle safety or for a different type of cuisine that's not offered in Austin currently. But just try to be as specific as possible so you can grow and you can focus on one thing at a time. So do some research on campus. You can test products with students. You can talk to your peers and say, hey, um, what do you think of this product? How much would you pay for it? What type of person do you think would buy it? And then move forward with your ideas. Don't wait. You don't have to start big, but you do have to start if you want to have a business. So, having a proof of concept, having a sample size of inventory, or conducting your services from your home or your apartment are all great ways to start. It does require sacrifice. It may require you working when you would otherwise have time off, or, working on the weekends or in the evenings instead of going out, or saving money and setting it aside when you would normally, use that money for entertainment. And seven, embrace failure. Small failures are good. They allow you to avoid larger failures. So, starting small and testing your market is definitely going to bring some failure, but that means that you're able to pivot so you can grow in areas that will become successful. All right, you can ask yourself three questions. If you want to find an opportunity, so if you don't know where to start, think about what is it that I want that I never seem to be able to find? What product or service would improve my life? What really irritates me, and what product or service would help? You may be onto something if you do find a product or service that fills customers' needs. There's a demand for it. People are asking for it. People are seeking you out because you're the only one in town that has this product or service. If you have skills and resources to apply to a specific type of company, if you can sell it at a price customers are willing and able to pay and still make a profit. This is where testing comes in. Being able to offer a product at a certain price, and there may be demand for it, but it may not be available at a price where you can also produce a profit. So that can take a little bit of trial and error. Um, if you can get your product or service to customers before the window of opportunity closes, this may mean seasonality. This may mean a hot new product that has reached the market but hasn't necessarily reached larger companies. Smaller companies in that way can be more agile and find solutions faster. And lastly, if you can keep the business going. So if you're getting customers, if they're making purchases, if you're able to earn a profit and do so consistently, then you may have found an opportunity for growth. So another example, these entrepreneurs founded Unbelievable Cookies as a way to help alleviate hunger. So they donate 2 meals to soup kitchens for every dozen cookies that the company sells. Do you guys think that entrepreneurs using their business to support charitable causes is beneficial to the business? Do you think it's beneficial to the consumers? How do you think customers feel when they purchase their product versus purchasing a product that does not have a charitable cause associated with it? You think they're more likely to maybe spend a little bit more if they know that there's something good behind it? These are all considerations you can contemplate for your own companies. All right. Entrepreneurship also exists within corporations and within larger companies. An entrepreneur is someone that uses an existing company's resources to create new products and to find new areas that can become profitable, new verticals for the company. One huge example is 3M's Post-it notes. That was created by by employees in the company that thought it would be a good idea to create a note that you could stick somewhere as opposed to just having it on a pen and paper. Google's Gmail, Apple's Mac computer, and Sony's PlayStation are all examples of entrepreneurial ventures. This can be beneficial, especially in areas like hardware, where you may be able to access a corporation or large company's resources that you couldn't easily reproduce on your own if you created a startup. There are several barriers to this, like economies of scale, having a network of buyers already available. So some entrepreneurs prefer to have their inventions, develop apps, or create new products and services within a host or larger company. Right. In contrast, a micropreneur is someone that's willing to accept the risk of starting and managing a business, but the type of business that micropreneurs focus on tend to remain small. They are able to do something that is associated with their passions or interests and gives them a balanced lifestyle so they can still focus on home or a main job or secondary job, and they have an outlet to earn additional income, and it helps them, they can manage time, they can manage work and family tasks, and also the risks. So some challenges might be marketing to new customers. If you've ever started on a site like Etsy or Poshmark or eBay, people may or may not be familiar with your business or what you're trying to sell. And so gaining a new customer footing, gaining that confidence and assurance from a new buyer can be a bit of a climb. All right, some benefits from home-based businesses is you can start it right now, right this minute, today. You don't need a lot of capital to do a home-based business. It doesn't require, land, building, lease, infrastructure. additional workers. You don't have to drive anywhere. There can be some tax benefits with starting your own business. And the entry risk and the initial capital requirement are low. So this, equates to a low risk for trial and error in figuring out how your business is going to operate. Some note here that computer technology has definitely leveled the playing field for small businesses. You can stay small, but you absolutely don't have to. And a lot of businesses start small and then they just expand because they're finding a niche or they're finding customers or they're addressing a need that wasn't before addressed. So, corporate downsizing has been huge over the last, specifically the last 5 years, and even before COVID. When COVID hit, a lot of individuals decided to start their own businesses. And so the new business development, skyrocketed during that time. But it's not all wonderful. There are some downsides to home-based businesses. Establishing work habits, especially if you have a full-time job, if you have a family already, and trying to have a business in addition to this, can definitely add a lot of juggling and a lot of schedule maintenance. So you may or may not have a dedicated support system. It may feel very isolating because having single business and being the only employee doing all of the work means a lot of time alone, a lot of time dedicated to the computer, and a lot of small tasks that can become redundant and time consuming. Your workspace may be limited, and depending on the type of business, if you have clients coming into your home, they may or may not prefer to come to a residence as opposed to a commercial entity. So, one consideration might be zoning restrictions. For example, if you want to start a daycare, your home, if it's zoned as a residential lot, may limit the number of children that you're able to take care of in your house. And then, of course, success is based 100% on your efforts. If you're the entrepreneur, you're the sole entity in your company and starting your small business, it's all on you. If you don't work, the business doesn't move. So, do you think you're ready to work from home? Here's a short questionnaire that can help you decide whether or not you are. Um, if you don't know the answer, are you the kind of person that can continue to research until you can figure it out? Entrepreneurs don't have a lot of people that they can ask, that they can go to. And even if you have a mentor, you definitely don't want to overtax them with day-to-day routine tasks and questioning. Definitely need to be hardworking, organized, and able to multitask. Well, multitask is not really a thing, I would say. Be able to switch from one task to another, with agility. Being able to work those long hours, to work weekends, to be available when your customers need you. And then, be okay being alone. You're building something from scratch. If you're okay kind of leading that and directing it and working hard without a whole lot of positive reinforcement along the way. So, the reason why micropreneurs tend to stay small with their companies, given the example of the music teacher here, excuse me. Uh, is because they're limited in scope and reach. The company is comprised of just them, and if they're giving out services or supplying products based on their individual talent, then it can only grow to a certain point. So micropreneurs are using their skills and talents to invest in their own companies, and this can provide sustainable income potentially, but may not grow beyond the individual. All right. Some potential home-based businesses that you can start right now today while you're still in school. would be, selling your artwork or selling personal handmade items. You can sell these on Etsy, eBay, and even Amazon, although Amazon takes, I think, 18% of the sales from your items. But home in-home services. So you can offer landscaping, tutoring services, not so much snow shoveling in Texas, but if you are somewhere else, then maybe that's an option for you. House cleaning, babysitting, web design, home organizing, any type of business where you can kind of set your own schedule. You can decide what your offerings are and the scope of offerings, and then you can market those skills. All right, some more potential for your home-based business. So, some important things to consider when creating a home-based business. Pick something that you really enjoy doing or you really don't mind and you get enjoyment out of. If you don't like washing your own dishes, maybe don't make that your company because you'll be doing that, 8, 10 hours a day and teaching other people how to do it, being on the job. So you want to pick something that you is part of your personal passion. Pick something that you know well enough about or you're willing to learn about, even while you have another job. If maybe you love clothing and you know all about clothing, but you may need to learn about how to sell clothing online. So if you're interested and motivated to do that, then that may be an outlet for you. If you can identify a market for your product or service, this is really important because a lot of people say, I want to have a restaurant or I want to be able to bake items. If you do the research ahead of time and understand what consumers are interested in, what niches are available, and what price your product is currently being sold for, this will allow you to have more success and faster success than if you just put a product out and hope people will buy it. All right, so in 2021, online retail sales reached over $850 billion, or about 13.5% of all retail sales. I'm sure that number has gone way up since then. Um, you have to offer unique products or services. This is partially true. Since consumers are able to Google, they may be able to easily find a product or service at multiple locations with multiple offerings. So keep this in mind when you start a web-based company. And also, if you are becoming successful with your online company, then it's easy for others to imitate you. So keep that in mind, and the types of products you sell and how long you hold them. Another consideration for small businesses is there are a lot of scams or a lot of companies that will say, give us your money and then we will give you a business idea or a business model that you can work and 100% get your return on investment or 200%, or they'll make promises that they are unable to keep. So they'll say that you don't need any experience. They'll say that it's not very time consuming. They'll try to get you really excited about this great opportunity. And then, of course, the rush to make the decision. They want you to decide now to spend your money and invest in this company. I would avoid any kind of business that says anything that is even remotely close to the way these types of companies look because they're largely scams or they don't provide any value over what you can do on your own from scratch. So when you're looking at these companies, think about what are they offering that I am not able to produce by myself. All right. Likewise, if you're thinking about investing in someone else's company or startup, make sure that you do your due diligence. Find out about this person, find out about their company. Make sure that you ask questions about it and that they have and that you have confidence in the ability for the company to succeed. So For example, accredited angel investors are private investors that are qualified to start and to put an amount of money in an investment to grow a business. As we talked about earlier in the textbook, this type of investment carries a high risk. So accredited investors prove that they have the funds available to guarantee this type of risk, which means if they lose their $100,000 investment, they're not going to lose their livelihood, for example. So, take great consideration before investing in any kind of business and do your diligence in it, or just avoid it altogether. And anything that comes to you online, absolutely, I would avoid. So, you have a company, you're established online, and you want to grow a presence. I think that I'm talking to a generation that probably knows better than I do how to market online. Obviously, you have Instagram, you have Facebook Marketplace, you have Etsy, eBay, you have all kinds of outlets available to you. So basically, anywhere that you see product being sold is also an opportunity for you to sell your own product and do marketing. All right. So this slide kind of focuses on state incubators and technology centers. It's kind of geared toward the U.S. as a whole, and the textbook is relating to the U.S. But in Austin, we are in one of the most amazing places. And I would even say, not second to Silicon Valley. I think Austin is the place to be if you want to have a startup and you need funding. So incubators are incredible places that you can go, share your business idea and get help with a lot of different avenues that you may or may not be proficient in. So incubators tend to help businesses with services such as accounting, legal advice, secretarial help, but they can do go above and beyond that. They can help you with marketing, with understanding customer base, with establishing an online presence. They can really, if you're willing to do the work and participate in an incubator, there's also dozens of competitions happening all year long in Austin. If you Google Austin incubators, you'll find that some that are specific to minorities or females or specific to whatever vertical you might be in, whether it's technology, manufacturing, financial services. And find an incubator. There's also a link in this slide where it says incubators and accelerators in Austin that can give you they're just literally dozens. If you want help and you're ready to start and work hard, there are definitely avenues that can give you extensive assistance. So, um, of course, not all businesses succeed. Businesses that go through incubators have a much higher rate of success. But some examples of businesses that have failed are Tommy Hilfiger. His first store went bankrupt. As we talked about at the beginning of the chapter, Milton Hershey, his first and second confectionery failed. Heinz went bankrupt 6 years after it started. Walt Disney's first film company went bankrupt. Henry Ford started two car companies that failed. And LL Bean almost went bankrupt in his first year. So how do avoid or how do you mitigate the risk of failure. So you definitely want to learn from others. So you have peers, you have local incubators, there are startup mentors, there are courses you can take in starting a business. They want to learn from other successful entrepreneurs that are local. Um, Another option is if you can gain some experience in the field that you're interested in before you start off on your own venture, that can be helpful. You can take over a successful company. For example, if a small business owner is retiring and wants to sell his business, then he may make you an apprentice or allow you to purchase the company at a reasonable price because he's, affiliated with you. That's happening to my brother right now. He's been working for a watch repair company and jewelry shop, and they're wanting to sell. So, of course, you would need to get the information on their financials, the business selling price, have it evaluated, go through legal entity to do transfer of ownership, and establish a loan guarantor. So, some situations that will set you up for success. If you're able to give personal attention to customers that large companies who are competitors are not able to do, this can add value to your business relative to others. If your product is not easily made by mass production, one thing that comes to mind is crochet. I think it's impossible to manufacture a crocheted item. This can only be handmade. Then that can give you a strategic advantage. If the sales are not large enough for a large firm to invest in or to grow their business into that vertical, then there may be an opportunity for you. Franchising is also a very low risk way to enter your industry, especially if you're in the food industry. Think about gyms, think about companies that are already established. They already have a name and they're growing and are, experiencing a lot of success. Then franchises already give you the textbook, so to speak, on how to perform the business, how to earn a profit. And then they have a lot of the components of starting a business, such as marketing, trademarks, and business processes already figured out. So you pretty much get handed the box with a franchise fee, you pay royalties, and you run a business. And then lastly, if your business is in a growth industry, which many are today, so just make sure that there is growing demand for your product or service before you step into that. All right. So, some functions of managing a business. When you start your own business, it's a lot different than going to work for an employer because as we talked about earlier, it's just you. So you are the one that plans, you create the strategy, you have to come up with financing for your business. You need to know your marketing plan and be able to execute it. You need to, if or when you hire employees, be able to manage them. And you have to keep excellent records of all the activities on money in, money out for your business. So this is an example. I'll let you guys read through this on your own, but another example of an idea that is sourced by having a problem that needed to be solved. All right. So you definitely want to start a small business. A good first step is writing a business plan. A business plan does take a long time to prepare because it has a lot of considerations in mind before you actually execute spending money, spending time on the business, and starting operations. So your executive summary captures the interest of potential investors, and it allows them to understand the purpose of your company. Why is your new pizza shop going to revolutionize the pizza industry? What is different about it that would prompt someone to want to fund it? Now, a business plan is absolutely necessary if you want to gain investors. It is not absolutely required to start a small business. However, some form of business plan preparation will encompass all of these considerations before you start a business. So having a business plan is definitely, a smart goal and an advantage from the get-go. So what is a business plan? It's a written statement that describes the nature of the business, the target market, the advantages it has in relation to the competition, and it explains any resource the business has and demonstrates the qualifications of the owner to run the business. Here's a very generic but typical outline for a business plan. You'll start with a cover letter. This may include an investor prompt or a request for funds. It will talk about the reason for the existence of the business and so on. The executive summary states a comprehensive goal and objectives of the business, and it gives a high-level view of what it's all about. The company background will go into how the business was started, if it had previous revenue, how long it's been around, and the source of the ideation. Management team talks about the members of the team, their credentials, their backgrounds, and their qualification, as well as any passion involved with starting the company. The financial plan generally includes a 3-year estimation of operational revenue and profit. This doesn't always mean that since we're starting in year one, we're going to make a profit in year one. Sometimes it can take 3 years or even longer for a business to become profitable, depending on what type of entity and what type of product or service you are selling. So, Section 5 talks about the sources and uses of capital. Section 6 talks about a marketing plan. Section 7 talks about the location of the target market and where you're planning to expand. If there's a manufacturing plan, that would be Section 8. And Section 9 has any references, research, or um, you know, examples of information or material referenced in the business plan. For example, if you're if you opened a boutique and you're writing a business plan so you can get more funding, then you may have a list of your offerings and the price of everything. That would be something that would be contained in the appendix. So, diving into the sections, the executive summary would be the concise overview of the business plan. So it's short, it's generally 1 to 2 pages, and it draws them into it gains interest for your company. So this is something that you would write last after all the other sections have been completed, because it does summarize all of your research and your motivation for the company. It would include, at a minimum, your business name and location, any products or services offered, mission and vision statements, and the purpose of the plan. So your company description is a high-level view of the business. It talks about the legal structure and entity. It'll discuss the brief history and the nature of your business. It'll also overview products and services in a step more detail than the executive summary. It will talk about specific products and verticals. It will talk about the company's growth strategy or growth in the past and long-term and short-term goals, which is also an expansion from the executive summary, which is one reason why the executive summary should be written last. So your products and service section, that gives you a lot of detail about what products and what services would be offered, what the benefit is to the customer, placement in the market, competitive advantages, talking about the product or services life cycle. If you think about if you have a frozen food company, part of the life cycle may be the length of time that your product is suitable for consumption. Copyright, patent, or trade secrets, and research and development activities would all go into product and service categories. So, your market analysis. So this lets your investor know that you understand who your customer is, where they're located, what their interests are, and that you have a reasonable projection based on the data of how you're going to reach your target market and um, and where your placement is relative to competitors. In the financial section, I think I kind of prefaced this earlier, but if you have any historical financial data, if your company has already been in operation for a while, you want to include that. You want to include an expected return on the investor's investment. You want to have sales and expenditures budgeted out for the next 3 to 5 years, and then have any trends in your industry and also trends for your company or expected future trends available in detail. All right. For strategy and implementation, this goes with your sales and marketing strategy, but it basically talks about execution. How are you going to get your product or service to the customer? How will they how will they get to you? Um, if you have, if you're asking for funding to increase the number of employees you have, then who will those employees be and what will they do? And then if you have a physical location or manufacturing location, it would talk about hours, and facility information. So, if you're considering starting a family business, it's you definitely want to outline what each person will do and what boundaries you have um, to separate those from the personal working relationship. A lot of times I see small businesses and they want to employ siblings or close friends because they want to help them out. But when you think about business, think about it from a business perspective, you need employees that are able to work hard and contribute in meaningful ways to grow the company. So make sure that the people that you're wanting to involve are a good fit for the company. Make sure that they're able to add value and that they're willing to do the types of work and the quantity of work needed for the business to become successful. So, different ways that you can finance your small business. Aside from bootstrapping, which is growing your company from the ground up, you can ask family, you can talk to business associates if they want to break off and start a company from your unique competencies. You can reach out to banks and financial institutions, especially if you already have revenue, then banks may be willing to contribute to that for you to expand. Um, Angels, crowdfunding, and venture capitalists. You can go to sites like GoFundMe or Kickstarter if you're just getting started or want to create a prototype. Note about the Jobs Act of 2012. It is still valid and it's changed how small businesses raise capital. It allows crowdfunding and easier access to investors, and it remains a a way for startups to gain growth. So venture capitalists, they may be interested if your company meets their expectations for growth trajectory, for the type of vertical that you are interested in. So if you want to get funding from venture capitalists, make sure that you do the research on them first before you present a company idea. And also understand that venture capitalists, they do provide money, but they also can provide governance, whether you like it or not. And they will require part ownership of your company. So there's a huge trade-off when involving venture capitalists. As a rule of thumb, I would say don't take money until or unless you absolutely need it. Government has this SBA program, which may allow you to get startup funds or growth funds. There's also small business investment company program, and development centers. So you can reach out to any of those. Entrepreneurship.org has free resources available to you. The SBA financial assistance can include standard loans, microloans, express loans. There's a community adjustment and investment program that you can qualify for. I have some expansion on the and more information on these in the notes of this slide. So if you're kind of interested in, hey, what type of loan is that? Who qualifies for that? It gives you a little bit more information. Or you can Google these, but cap line loans are other opportunities. So, tell us, Barbie. So, we talked about small businesses, we talked about home-based and startup businesses, but not all businesses stay small. In the case of Kodiak Cakes, when they went on Shark Tank and everyone saw, the passion that they have and the unique idea that they have, then customers immediately responded, right? Barbie is another one of those that Ruth and Elliot Handler started the business in their garage. And at first they were making picture frames. But they also created dollhouse furniture on the side for fun, and they realized that it sold better than the picture frames. So they decided to focus on dolls. And today, of course, well, Mattel is a multi-billion dollar business. But Barbie was purchased by Mattel, and they are still going strong. So, oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was the Austin Music Company. I met the owner of that in passing at I think a Capitol Factory event, and he mentioned that he just wanted to have a small business, and he wasn't intending on making it anything special, specifically, but it just kept growing and growing, and so he went along with it, and it became incredibly successful. So sometimes just being available and having the product or service is all that you need. So knowing your customers, knowing your market, um, fulfilling your customers' needs, and offering quality at a fair price with great service can help people to have faith in your company, to continue to go back again and again, and also being able to adapt to your customers, right? If there's a product or service that doesn't meet their needs, if it's, you know, uh, if something happens later on and they're dissatisfied, going back and making it right or pivoting your product or your process to adapt to them can mean a ton for your business growth and sustainability. So, as a small business owner, when you start taking on employees, then you have to put that management slash leadership hat on as well. That can include initially hiring them, providing them training, and then giving them motivation to keep your business running and to continue to do their best job. So individuals like to have jobs that are challenging. They like to accept responsibility and they need to be consistently motivated. So entrepreneurs best serve themselves and the business when they recruit and groom employees for management positions. So try to have, your employees take a personal stake in the company in that they're investing their work and their livelihood. And as the business grows, they'll be incentivized by continuing to be rewarded. Some pitfalls entrepreneurs and small businesses can make is trying to do too much. If your business is operating in more hours per week than you have to dedicate to it, then it can just be frustrating. It can string you out and burn you out, and then business owners can quit or they just become incredibly overwhelmed and drown in their business success. Hiring the wrong people. That might be hiring good people, but not the right people for the job. Hiring people that you like, but not hiring people that have high work ethic. Or just hiring family because they're family and not because they're the right person to get the job done. Choosing the wrong investors. This could mean um, that they are participating in the company, but they're not driving it the way that you had intended it to be, that they take over as far as decision making is concerned. Um, and then becoming complacent, just kind of setting the business consistently aside can become a problem, and failing to use new technology. I think this is probably, again, not the audience for that, but this is something that, as technology and innovation in your company grows, you have to grow alongside it to continue to be competitive. For example, if you have a physical restaurant and you only accept cash, while all of your competitors are taking credit card, Venmo, Cash App, then customers may be less inclined to come to your store just because they don't happen to have cash on them. This is one way that failing to use new technology can burden a business's overall success. So definitely look for help and expert advice in legal, tax, accounting, and possibly marketing and finance sectors. So you definitely want to be compliant with laws and regulations around your company. That's not something that you can easily let slip. Um, The Service Corps of Retired Executives is part of the SBA, and they have volunteers from different industries, trade associations, and education, and they counsel small businesses at no cost. Again, the startup accelerators and incubators in Austin are also excellent, excellent resources for you to draw from. And you can also hire these types of qualified individuals for very specific tasks that you're not able to do yourself, or just don't have time for. So the business plan is probably the most important document a small business owner will ever create. There are about 9 sections in the business plan outline. There could be many, many more depending on your type of business. But if you can describe at least 5 of those sections. So we talked about the first, there being a cover letter, the first section being the executive summary. We talked about having a plan, financial plan, marketing plan. You can have an operational plan. You definitely want to detail the products and services you have. If you have manufacturing plan, you may need an exit plan as well. You want to have a section talking about the source and use of funds. You'll want to talk about the management teams, qualifications, to run the company, and so on and so forth. All right, so at the end of the stock project, I always have individuals that say, I would not like to compete with this company, not want to compete with Apple because Apple has, billions of dollars of sales and they're established and they have a lot of people. That can be true, but small businesses also have advantages over large businesses. So small businesses tend to be able to connect with customers and with individuals. They're able to tap into what people need and how those changes in needs occur over time. They tend to be more adept at shipping, although I kind of argue that that gap has sort of closed since 2022. Um, they can provide a wide variety of suppliers, whereas big box companies tend to have only a few, which, either provide the highest margin or are the ones that are most in demand, but they don't give a lot of variety. And small companies can give customers personal service and undivided attention. Think about, though, a winery in Green or in Wimberley, Texas, and what the experience in going to that small winery is, as opposed to going to a big box liquor store and buying a bottle of wine. That's all we have for chapter 5. Make sure that you take your chapter 5 quiz, and I will talk to you again in chapter 4.